All right, I have a question from. Wait. I have a question from Scott. He asks, "How do you always come up with the best playful responses? Does it take a lot of practice?"
Well, what was helpful for me is doing customer service type of jobs, especially like bartending or waiting tables, especially when you're young, because it forces you to interact with other people. And, back in the day when I was a bartender, people come sit at your bar, you're stuck there. You're not going anywhere until your shift is over. And you got to become a good listener because people come in and they want to tell you about their lives or they tell you about their problems or what's going on in their life. And so you got to get used to being a good listener. And instead of being an entertainer, you get used to asking questions. And my growing up in my family, my dad was always cracking jokes. My mom cracked jokes. My grandfather cracked jokes. My brother cracked jokes. All my close friends are just kind of smart asses and are always cracking jokes and making light of things because they want to have fun. And so a lot of the one-liners and things I use in my videos that I've learned, just things like, dropping a deuce or I got to drop a squid or the flesh rocket or the meat missile or beat up her pelvis or just stuff like that. Those are things that I've picked up from friends that or people that I worked with over the course of my life. And so when I hear something that's really good, like I'm an innocent child of God, like I got that one from you
Oh
actually.
yeah,
I
I
stole it.
remember
That's such a great one, and I use that one all the time. It's just when you hear good one-liners and it's steal them. Make a list.
that. Yeah.
If you're not good at memorizing, anytime you hear somebody, it could be in a movie, it could be in a store somewhere, and somebody says a smart ass comment like that, or like one of the guys I used to work with. I remember we were all sitting around having beers and we were talking about girls we were dating or hooking up with or whatever. And he was talking about this girl that we all knew that he used to date, and he loved fucking her in the ass. He was talking about being balls deep in her ass, and he just loved it. And she loved it, and he would just go on and on about that. I was like, well, that doesn't do anything for me. It's like, hey man, more power to you, whatever. And then he broke up with her, and then like he was like, I'm totally done with her, and I want to find somebody else. And I was like, cool, we're all supportive of that. And then I don't know, a month later, he's like, oh, I've been hooking, I even remember her name. He's like, oh, I've been hooking up with so and so again. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it's like heating up leftovers.
Oh, that's how you got. That's a good one too.
So when I fucking heard that,
Yeah.
we all laughed our asses off. Granted, all of us had a couple of drinks in us, but this guy. There's probably at least a dozen one-liners that I got for this one particular guy.
Is he the same guy that had to tickle the starfish?
No, that was actually I got that from Brian.
Really?
Brian, the guitar guy. He was the one that told me that when tickling the starfish. It's like I never heard that, or the balloon knot, tearing up the balloon knot, or whatever.
Oh, that's a gross. That's nasty.
But it's like you hear things like that, this locker room talk, guy talk, and people are like, "Oh, you're so funny." And it's like, well, I had a lot of funny people that I've been around. I grew up in a family of people that would crack jokes, and when you go through life and somebody says an off the wall one liner like that, it's if you're not good at memorizing them, write them down, keep them in a little book or whatever, because those things are funny. And when you're on a
Yeah.
date like that and you're talking or you're hanging out with a girl or you just got, you had incredible sex the night before and you talk about beating up each other's pelvises and you say something like that to a girl you just started dating and hooking up with and she's never heard it before. It's funny because it's like you think about beat up her pelvis or punching the princess.
Punching the princess?
I haven't heard that one.
No.
Punching the poussoir. Giving her the meat
Jay
missile.
doesn't like the punching the princess.
The flesh
Weird.
rocket, the one-eyed monster, the purple porpoise.
Purple porpoise?
That actually, there was a place in Gainesville. It used to be I don't know if it's still around anymore. There was a bar right off campus, University of Florida, called the Purple Porpoise. For you old school guys that went to UF, you'd be like, I remember that place. That was a great bar.
But I agree with you. Getting a job in the service industry is one of the best things you could do. That's what helped me so much socializing. I worked at Chick-fil-A If you're seeing
Oh,
like
I forgot that.
if you're seeing like 100 people, you're talking like 100 people an hour. You're gonna get really good at socializing and small talk. Like
You can get just watching, like, I remember there was what was it? One of the TV programs. It was, I think it was the Mike and Molly one. You remember that? It was probably
Yeah.
10 years ago.
I like that show.
And also Two and a Half Men. The woman that played the maid or the housekeeper that lived there.
Oh yeah.
She
she's
was
funny.
always laying out zingers like that, things I'd never heard before, that was talking about sex or bodily fluids or whatever, Hershey squirts, or I heard that when I was a kid. But it's like when you have like good comedies or a good movie, if you hear a good line, write it down and keep it in your little book and memorize them, because you get 15, 20 of those things, and at the right moment, you throw one of those zingers in there in a crowd of people that's never heard that before. It's funny as hell.
yeah.
And you got everybody laughing. And then you just made everybody laugh. There's 5 people, 10 people around you. Everybody's laughing because of a one-liner that you memorized from a TV show you saw 10 years ago or whatever. But like I said, Two and a Half Men had a shit ton of them. The Mike and Molly one had a ton of them. It's like, things, especially things around sex and life and relationships or bodily fluids. It's bumping uglies, those kinds of things. It's like you accumulate them, and you can use them and reuse them over and
Yeah.
over and over
And
again.
you kind of like refine when to use them and the delivery of it too. Yeah, I think that's actually one thing I have. I think I should write them down because
I gotta drain the lizard.
Oh yeah.
You were like, what? It's funny. So it does. I mean, it's not because I'm funny. I memorized funny things I've heard from other people, things that made me laugh. Like listening to Trump laugh, last night when he was roasting
Oh, he
Kamala
has some good
Harris.
liners. He has some good ones.
That was funny. He's hilarious. He comes up with great one-liners.
And all off the cuff too. A lot
Yeah.
of it. It's really good.
And so that's really what a sense of humor is being able to say one-liners. It's like a play on words, like tickle the starfish. It's like, who thought of that? It does look like a starfish, though. Tickling the star. My buddy likes to eat ass. He's like, yeah, and I tickled the starfish. I was like, what? The first time he said that to me, I laughed so fucking hard. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah,
and then he laughed too,
Yeah,
because he's been using that. I think he learned that from his brother many decades ago, and I'd never heard it before, and I'd known this guy a long time. And it's like, it's funny because you laugh, then he laughs, and everybody's feeling good. You get a girl on a date and you throw zingers at her like that, it's like, if the waitress comes over and you're having a good time, and it's like, do you guys want anything else? Any dessert? No, we're just going to dine and dash when you're not looking. And you say, I'm just kidding. Here's my card. Here's my credit card or whatever. But, those are all funny things that are unusual quips that people don't normally use.
I always liked when somebody would hand me their card and like, I just found it in the parking lot. I hope it goes through.
Oh, that's a good one, actually.
Yeah.
That's good.
I've used it before. I was like, you get some people that laugh and then some people that are like, don't get it. But because
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. That does happen in South Florida a lot. I mean, yeah, but fraud. So, but you have some, you lose some. It's always fun with Jack because he hasn't seen a lot of movies, and I've seen just about every movie there is. And so I'll say something, he has no idea what I'm talking about, and he's just laughing and laughing. I'm just looking at him, watching him laugh, and it's great when you're making people laugh. So then when we finally watched it, I'll show him where I got it from, or like watch. He's like, "Oh, that's where you got it."
I got to drop the kids off at the pool. Like, what? I got to take a shit.
And take the
If they were-
Browns to the Super Bowl. They don't think they've ever been.
Take the Browns to the Super Bowl. Well, I think that under the old championship rules they had been, but not since the merger of the AFL and the NFL, I guess.
Oh.
They suck. Watson is not going to fix their problems.
Yeah,
They
he
got
was
more
out of the
charges.
league for a long time because of all his problems that he had, and plus he's been injured the last couple of years, so he really hasn't played a full season, and he's been aging. So when he gets out there,
He's got a
he
lot of
looks rusty.
massages, though. He keeps his body loose, though. Gets a lot of massages.
Yeah,
What?
He got in trouble for getting
he gets the chicken choked
Oh, the
on the
tug and
daily.
rub?
Yeah.
Or rub and tug?
Choking
or
the
whatever it's
chicken,
in?
rub and tug. That's another. A rub and tug. The first time I heard that was this same guy that I used to work with. The one about heating leftovers, because he liked to go to those kinds of the Asian massage places. He's like, I'm gonna get the rub and tug. I was like, who thinks of that? That's not mine. It's something that he probably because his brother was like that, and his friends he grew up with from Boston. They had a lot of good one-liners, and so again, when you hear a good one-liner, steal it, write it down if you have to. That's really all there is to being funny. Just learn some funny shit and throw it at people at an unusual time, an unexpected time.
Then after knowing it, it's just knowing how to deliver it. Then you're set. Or when to deliver.
Yeah, and when you can use it over and over with different groups of people, it's the first time they've heard it, and so you always get the same reaction.
Or you can say it to the same group of people if
you look at how do comedians get to the point where they go and they do a Netflix special. So what they do is they write their comedy routine, they write their jokes, and then they memorize it, and then they go and they deliver it as they travel around, and they film it. And so they deliver the joke and they film it. Sometimes jokes land and they're great. Sometimes they're like, eh. And so what they do when they go back and they look at the tape is the jokes that don't land, they change the joke.
Yeah.
And then the next time they do that comedy routine, or the bit as they call it, they do it with a new line. And then maybe that line lands really great and you get a great laugh. And so that's what you do. You film your performance, and any joke that doesn't land, you try to come up with a better line, whether it's you writing or your writers, and then you deliver those new lines. And some of them will land, some of them won't, and you keep working on it till you pretty much get a steady laugh all the way through. And by the time somebody like Joe Rogan or a Bill Burr or somebody like that gets up and does a Netflix special, you're like, man, that guy's so funny, it's amazing. It's what they don't understand is they've rehearsed those bits and those routines with live audiences enough to the point where they modified. It's basically a speech. The whole thing, they're delivering jokes that they've delivered many, many times before. And so when you see it show up on your TV, they've rehearsed it and they've changed the routine so they get steady laughs all the way through it. And then we watch it and we go, oh, they're a brilliant comedian. And to us, we look at that and we go, oh, this guy must have just pulled these things out of his ass and he's up there riffing on stage. It's like, no, that stuff is all scripted. They memorize it, they deliver it. Like I was watching Bill Burr. He was at, which one was it? The Improv one time. And he was working on a new bit. And he was up there delivering it. And if a joke didn't land, he would have some smart ass comment about it. It's like, well, that one didn't work. He wasn't bothered by it. He just looked, well, I got to, worked out a little bit. And then his assistant, you're like, what's the next bit? And then they would call out what it is. Oh, yeah, because he didn't even have it fully memorized yet. He was trying it out, and so it was a new comedy routine. And so they go around the country at the different improvs or the Comedy Store or whatever, or the Comedy Mothership, I think it is, the one that Joe Rogan has now. And they just deliver it to different audiences all over the country. Because regionally, there might be a joke that lands great in California, but if you try that joke in Florida, it falls flat.
Yeah.
So all of that, repetition being the mother of skill, and all of that practicing, they learn what works. And so it was neat to go see Bill Burr when he was working on a new comedy routine, and he didn't even remember all of it. And he had to have his assistant tell him like what bits come up next, because he was just trying different things to see how they worked, what landed, what didn't work. And when you date and you use these different one-liners that you hear, some of them are going to land great, some of them are not. So that's repetition's the mother of skill, and you end up coming up with a routine and one-liners. And when I see people in the comments, or I'm in the elevator and cracking jokes with my neighbors, and I always got something. To them, it's brand new. To me, I've probably used it 1,000 times. And people say, Corey, you're so funny. It's like, well, I really just memorized a lot of funny lines that I learned from other people that were way funnier than me. And so you repeat it. And it's like also having friends that were great, like Sean, who was a great storyteller, always been a great storyteller. And watching him deliver a joke, or especially the one that we've all, for those of us, your dad included, that have known him for 40 fucking years, a purple polka dotted ping pong ball story that we've probably heard him deliver that whole thing 10,000 fucking times. All the times on Friday and Saturday night we would go out, he'd be there at least once or twice a night. He's telling that joke or that routine to a bunch of girls we're talking to. And when it's new girls, like this is back in the days when we were single, it's a funny ass story because they never heard it before.
Yeah.
But we hear, we're like, oh, here we go again. But to the girls, it's funny as hell because it gets a laugh because they never heard it before. And he had a bunch of those things. And like I remember when they came and stayed with me when I was living in South Beach, we actually filmed the purple polka dotted ping pong ball story, and him and his wife and his son and his two daughters, as soon as he started telling it, they're like, oh my God, not again. And they've all heard that story hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. And you know what? They were all still laughing their asses off because the kids are there and everybody's laughing. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, I knew the punchline. I knew how it was going to end. So did his family. But we all still laughed at it just because of the way he tells it. It's funny. And so when you got people that are good at telling stories, like, what is the tone of their voice? How do they deliver the punchline? Are they smiling?
How they keep you like kind of
How are they using delays? How are they using pauses when they're speaking? Analyze that. I mean, I learned this when I was in middle school. I just started watching guys that were really popular and really funny, and how they delivered, what the tone was, what the sound effects were that they delivered, and then I would copy those things. And when you would deliver them the same way with a completely different group of people, they would find it funny because you saw somebody successfully deliver it and you just basically model what they did successfully. So it's not really a big secret, but it's a masterful technique. It just takes some practice, and make a note whenever you hear those things, whether it's a friend or in a movie or a comedian or a TV show. It's like, as Steve Jobs said, great artists steal. So if you hear good material, use it.